beginning of time, the Japanese warred among themselves and their neighbors, creating a colorful, rich, and sometimes brutal legacy. Intriguing to outsiders for centuries, modern Japan is no less so in the 21st century. Perceptions of Japan are vast and varied, the reality, somewhere between. It's an extremely organized, polite, orderly society driven by an obsessive desire to succeed. There is beauty, history, culture in what likely is the cleanest, most sanitary country in the world. When most think of Japan, cars and electronics are first to tickle the imagination, and indeed Japan led the modern revolution in electronics manufacture. Japan and Korea also present a formidable challenge to American and European automobile makers. Japan has, without question, one of the most sophisticated and extensive public transportation systems in the world. Subways, streetcars, buses, ferries, cable cars, funiculars, ropeways, trains, and high-speed trains collectively and efficiently connect the country. The high-speed bullet train crews take great pride maintaining an on-time schedule. These high-speed, smooth-riding expresses are often a quarter-mile long and may exceed speeds of 150 miles an hour. Tokyo, the country's capital since the late 1800s, is a modern, high-rise city where many still don't bother to lock their bicycles. Safe, clean, and home to over 12.5 million residents. This is late March, and the cherry blossoms for which this country is so enamored are in their early bloom. Cause for celebration here in Ueno Park. Partiers stake out their spot along the walk early in the day for a late afternoon, early evening picnic under the cherry blossoms. There's an entire sidewalk full of food vendors for those who prefer. What's most remarkable, the food is all quite good and very safe for visitors to consume. Sanitary food handling is a given in Japan. In the Roppongi Hills Tower, on a clear day, there's a 360-degree view of the entire city. This particular day, somewhat less so, but no less interesting with a little imagination. One of the most famous and expensive shopping districts in Asia, on some of the most expensive real estate in the world, the Ginza, where a little rain doesn't interfere with spending volumes of cash that would likely keep a small country afloat for a year. A square meter of real estate here goes for well over $100,000.
Today we're going to Hakone, which is near Tokyo, and also very close to Fujisan. So we're hoping to get a good view of Fujisan today, Mount Fuji. It's going to be an interesting day because we have so many different modes of transportation to take today. We'll start from here on the subway, then a local train to Tokyo train station, bullet train from Tokyo to Odawara. Then we'll take another local train to Hakone Yumoto Onsen. Then we take a special electric train that goes up a steep hillside, and it goes through a series of switchbacks. Once it reaches the end of one switchback, the engineer and the conductor trade ends, and then the train goes in reverse to the next switchback, and they trade again, and it just keeps going up the hillside that way. Then we take a funicular, 2 ropeways, a boat on a lake, and then a bus back to Hakone Yumoto, the local train to Odawara, bullet train back to Tokyo, and local train and subway back here.
A grand adventure in public transportation, and if your luck holds, a look at Mount Fuji. From the bullet train on the way, a glimpse of this magnificent mountain that towers over 12,000 feet, a dormant volcano that has been quiet since 1708. The destination of the trip is at the top of the ropeways, about 3,000 feet in altitude.
So where are we now?
This is Owakudani, which literally translates to Boiling Valley.
Is this as high as we go today?
Yeah, this is as high as we go today.
By the minute, Mount Fuji was clouding in, but to even get a glimpse from the train is a real treat. Here, other than the view of Mount Fuji, the thermal pools are the attraction. Of equal or perhaps more import, onsen or black eggs, cooked right here in the boiling thermal pools. Legend has it, one may add 7 years to their life for each egg consumed. Very likely the folks selling the eggs may have been the source of this particular legend. At any rate, they're very popular. The next leg of the journey, a ropeway or cable car ride down to Lake Hakone, and a cruise to the other end begins the journey back to Tokyo. Kyoto is one of Japan's most beautiful cities, with a past that is a rich and colorful mosaic of Japanese history. Once the capital, it was the emperor's residence from 794 to 1868. Royalty held court here for over 1,000 years. Though the political capital was moved to Yedo, which is now Tokyo, Kyoto is still considered the cultural capital of Japan. There are about 2,000 temples and shrines in and near Kyoto that have survived the various wars and fires through the centuries. Because of Kyoto's historic significance, the city was spared from bombing during World War II. In westernmost Kyoto, the Arashima district was the favorite destination and getaway for ancient emperors. A place for palatial palaces, expansive temples, and some of the most extraordinary gardens in Japan. Here, too, a dense cultivated, for harvest, bamboo forest. Bamboo grows very quickly, sometimes as much as 6 feet a year. It's the fastest growing woody plant in the world. In Asia, a significant economic and cultural resource, not only for gardens, but building material and as a food source. One of the most beautiful gardens and the oldest in the country is here in Japan's largest Zen Buddhist temple.
Well, this temple is called Tenryuji Temple. It means Ten means heaven, Ryu means dragon. So this temple is Heavenly Dragon Temple, Zen Temple, the largest Zen temple in Kyoto in the Rinzai sect of Buddhism. It is a main hall, part of a main hall, and Emperor Go-Daigo, the statue of Emperor Go-Daigo is enshrined here. It was built in 1339 by a shogun, the first shogun of Ashikaga government, second shogunate family. And he was also a gardener. Muso Soseki is his name. So he was a high priest and a gardener and a merchant. And we are going to see his garden, one of the most beautiful gardens in Japan. The garden is original, built in the 14th century, the oldest garden in Japan. And they have a borrowed landscape. If you see high-rise buildings behind the garden, it will spoil the atmosphere. So this is a borrowed landscape. Mountains are borrowed. We call it borrowed landscape.
Though not on many Western tour itineraries, this is an extremely popular area for Japanese. So by late morning, the streets fill right up with Japanese tourists. A mile or so away, in the Zen Sahoji Temple, this moss garden is one of the most famous in all of Asia.